This video is called The Worst of Hard Times by Thomas Jefferson Jordan, at the age of 96. He lived through the Dust Bowl, and he had farms in Oklahoma.
Correct.
So, how was it living in the Dust Bowl?
Well, it was the worst of hard times. It was the starting of the Depression, the starting of the drought, and started the 45% unemployment, and it would go for 7 months without raining, and and that caused the dust to blow. It, the dust would come in just like a big fog, and in 30 minutes, while you couldn't see hardly your hand in front of you. And, well, it got so sometime the dust was so thick and dark that the chicken would go to roost at 12 o'clock in the daytime. They was thinking it was night. I've seen that a lot of times, and it would get so hot sometime 117 or 18 degrees that the chickens would die from the heat. It, well, I'd put a wet towel over my head at night, and then I'd wake up in the morning, and that towel would be covered with about a half inch of this fine uh, dust, and it'd be all in your nose and your hair, and all over the bed. And people had a hard time making a living. Unemployment was 45%. It'd go for 6 or 7 months in summertime without raining, and be 117 or 18 degrees temperature. It, and it gets so dry that the ground would crack 2 or 3 inches, just crack like split open, and the dust started blowing in about 1935, and it blowed for 35, 36, 37, 38, and 39. And
So, what part of Oklahoma were you in?
I was in the southwest part of Oklahoma.
Did it affect your crops badly?
Well, yes, it would have been all right if it rained. What affected it mostly was no rain for about 7 months out of the year.
So you couldn't grow anything at all?
Well, you plant a crop and it'd dry up, when it didn't. The government, the pastures dried up, and the government started buying cattle and just slaughtered them, and then they'd pay the farmers a little bit for the cows that they'd slaughtered, and they laid it on plowing up the land, trying to put so much land in agriculture, but really what was the whole problem was it never rained.
Yeah. So, how did it affect your community?
Well, it affected the community because they didn't have no money. They cut the schools down as little as 7 months out of the year instead of 9. They didn't have money enough to run the schools.
So, did you have a money deficit?
Well, yeah, most everybody did, really.
What did you do after
Well,
the Dust Bowl went through?
they had the WPA, that is the Works Progress Administration. They hired people that to work, and they paid them to work there a couple of weeks out of a month, and they got enough money to buy little groceries and things. And, in the city, they had what they call soup kitchens that people, and they'd open these places where they'd feed the hungry. You know, they was thousands and thousands of people that was unemployed, and Roosevelt, he was elected president, and he started having what they call CCC camp. That is, they had were young boys, 17 to 22 or 3. They opened up sort of like a military type camp where that they built bridges and roads. In fact, the CC built the Bitter Lake Refuge down here. It was actually they called it CCC, but it was a conservation corps, civilian conservation corps, is what it was. And that really took young boys off the street and give them a job, and they really done a lot of good of building roads and dams and everything. You know, they built a lot of national work in the national parks, building dams and roads and fences. And
So was that one of the worst times that you've ever lived in?
that was one of the worst times. In fact, I was in the CC camp for about 6 months. And we built barns and built fences and things to keep buffalo and elk in the Wichita National Forest in Oklahoma.
So it was tough work then.
Well, we worked 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, but we didn't work all that hard, but we worked. But they fed us good and furnished us good clothes and good place to sleep. And it wasn't all that bad. In fact, it was good.
So overall, it was good and bad in a way.
Well, that was things beginning to pick up a little bit. That was in 1938. You know, times was starting to get a little better in 1938. The dust had quit blowing so bad by then, but that dust would raise up in the northeast, and it'd come a little bit higher and a little bit higher and a little bit higher, and you could see it in the northeast coming up in about 2 or 3 hours. Why, that dust had come in and it just engulf you, just like a thick fog. And that'd last for 4 or 5 days or 3 or 4 days, and then maybe it'd be all right for a week or 10 days, and then it'd come another one of them dust storms. And that's the reason that I say it's the worst of hard times. I'm one of the few people probably that's left out of the Dust Bowl days. I was about a 12 or 13-year-old kid when that was going on.
So this is Tom Jordan and his take on the Dust Bowl. He lived through it.
Well, I barely managed to survive.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I've lived a happy life, had kids and grandkids and great-grandkids and great-great-grandkids, so I've done all right for poor old Okie.